I'm going to call this meeting to order. And our first item of business is, we have the minutes from November 10th and the 18th. And the 18th was a budget work session. What would you like to do?
I would move approval of the minutes of the
Second.
meetings of November 10 and 18.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving on to bills for payment, we have warrant 11, 11P, and the Conservation Commission.
Actually, it should be 10 and 10P. That's my mistake.
Okay, so
On
warrants
the
10 and warrants 10P. I thought that was maybe a week.
Yeah,
Early.
it is.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
I'll move the approval of warrants 10, 10P, and Conservation Commission number 5.
I will second that.
Okay, any discussion? I'll point out the warrant 10. We have Green Mountain Power, gravel, Silvernet. We have the Windham County Sheriff's monthly contract. Our second installment for the county tax. And I'll just point out the sheriff department was about 30 hours for the past month, so that was a big, nice increase. So, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And then we have no visitors in the audience. We're thinking that the planning commission is going to be here soon. So let's move on with your permission to correspondence for information. Let's see, we have some newsletters that we received from Windham and Windsor Housing Trust. Notice of the budget meeting on December 15th, the Windham County tax. And anything in there you want to discuss further? All right, we have one member of the planning commission, so we're just waiting for one more, and then we'll go on. But we could go on to correspondence for discussion and or action. And Doug Hamilton, who's been one of our 911 program coordinators for a number of years now, has given us a resignation letter. So, what would you like to do with that?
Well, I guess first move we accept his resignation
Mhm.
and thank him for his service.
Would you accept a friendly amendment to accept it with regret?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay, all right then. Any more discussion? All right then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I can write him a note if you want.
Yeah, I will, yeah, thank him for.
Thanking him for,
So I guess the next thing would be, we need to advertise, or do we have somebody interested in the position?
Well, you appointed Pam McFadden as E911 coordinator. She and Doug were kind of co-coordinators so that she
Okay.
could learn it
Okay,
from him.
okay.
so
I
we
think you're
don't
all
need
set.
another one? Okay.
Yeah, and then once we get to town meeting, this would be something that we'd reappoint. Look at all of those. So I see we have two members of the planning commission here, and if you'd like, you could come up and we can hear what you have to say about wireless telecommunication facilities.
No worries.
Good, because we're in budget season.
Yeah. This is long-term planning.
This is preventive. Because the town got sort of blindsided a few years ago by the power line. So it seems like it's a good idea to talk about these things when there's no issue on the table.
Yeah.
It can be contentious, we can look at it in a much more studied way. There is a wireless telecommunications facility policy in place, which is pretty comprehensive. It needs updating. It was updated last in November 14th, no,
2007.
in 2007. And it was written in 2001, I think by Cindy Wilcox. And it was amended to reflect the changes in districts, I think.
Yep, it was initially to prevent cell towers in conservation district, I think, what's it called, forest reserve and reserve. And then it was amended to allow it in reserve. Is there a copy of the,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
copy of the ordinance that we have now,
Yeah.
and then what's got the title wireless communications facilities is a draft that we've.
That's your new draft that you've approved, or?
That we're working on, and we thought it was appropriate before going too far down the line to bring it to you.
There's a couple issues that we want to discuss with you guys and get a little guidance. One is that we believe it should be in the bylaws, zoning bylaws, as opposed to an ordinance. The ordinance essentially puts the DRB as the review board and the zoning administrator as the enforcer, but it's not in the bylaws, and it's confusing, and it is, we believe, land use and should be in the land use provisions, which are zoning bylaws. The second is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna add to that, when we realized how out of date it was, I think that in itself is a reason to put it in the bylaw. You've got a planning commission that is constantly reviewing the bylaw, whereas the ordinance maybe kind of sat on a shelf without people realizing how out of date it was. So that might be another reason to have it as part of the bylaw. But there may be, I think that's something that the select board needs to consider. There may be other reasons that we aren't, from our vantage point, seeing that you would want it to be an ordinance versus being part of our general bylaw. VLCT, which basically provided the bulk of the language for our draft, I think also provided the bulk of the language back in 2001 for this ordinance. And there's, they have a draft ordinance now that you could use, as well as the draft bylaw. So they're not recommending that we do it one way or the other. I don't think. I think it's pretty
They're
tough to
recommending
do.
that we have a bylaw in place. Right now, the Public Service Board is the decision maker, and local bodies have no control at all. But that law sunsets in 2017, that's 16.
17.
And there's no indication of where they're gonna go, and it may very well be that there's a useful tool to put in place if local organizations and groups have more say in the matters.
Yeah, so, which is why it's nice to be looking at it now. I mean, if there was, I think the cell tower that just got approved on Putney Road in Brattleboro, that was approved by the Public Service Board. There was
Over the objections of the
Yeah.
but the
BVA.
the applicant, submitted the application to the State Public Service Board. They have the option to go to the municipality, but they also have the option to go to the Public Service Board. And right now, I think the Public Service Board is a little bit easier to negotiate, and an applicant knows it's the same public service board from town to town, so I think they like that consistency, and there's a good chance that the public service board will, continue that option past 2017, but right now, the law on the books sunsets in 2017. It's just prudent for us to have something in place.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Um,
Well, in either event, whichever way you choose to go, making it part of the bylaws or keeping it as an ordinance, it needs to be updated because the districts have changed. And it refers to the ZBA a couple times as opposed to the DRB. And it's,
Those are the two major
Mhm.
yeah,
obsolete items.
and it's something that can easily wait till after budget season, I think, to work on, but it's just something to put on your to-do list.
Mhm. Okay. So, so it's the planning board's preference that it would become a bylaw?
I don't think we ever had an official vote on that,
No, we can't
so
speak
I'm
for
just
the,
speaking for myself.
yeah, and for myself, I think I recommend it because I see it as pragmatic, just because we have a little bit of an infrastructure or a bureaucracy, if you will, around the bylaw. And it seems as if the ordinance is a standalone ordinance. It seems like its
Mhm.
chance of collecting dust on the shelf is higher than it's in it. So just, and we also have in the bylaw sort of a written procedure for enforcement, little as it is there. So that's why I would recommend it
Mhm.
being as part of the bylaw. We've also looked at other towns. Putney has it written into their bylaw, Brattleboro has it written into theirs. That doesn't mean it's better, but and we wouldn't be the only ones.
Andrew, you started to say what your thoughts were, and I didn't hear you finish.
Oh, I think that it should be in the bylaws for a couple reasons. One is, some of them are what Sam said, and the other is that the DRB can put conditions on the use in a more efficient way, as opposed to a sort of a either or situation that ordinances often are. I mean, it's competing interests often, from the intrusiveness of cell towers to the convenience and safety issues that wireless service provides, and everyone wants both. And,
Yeah.
and the DRB is the body that sort of is designed to sort of take on those competing interests and create a viable solution.
Yeah, 15 years ago, nobody wanted a tower, but only some people had cell phones. Now there's darn few people that don't carry a cell phone.
Yeah.
So the towers become kind of critical now. And they're used for so much more than just a call now, just your data information and that type of thing. So I think, maybe I'd be proved wrong, but I think the public might be a little more interested in cell towers placement. Although Newfane just went through quite a struggle, so.
Yeah, and it's a useful discussion to have.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to have it when there isn't a cell tower looming over the...
Yeah, that needs to go in pronto, yeah.
When's the last time we got a request for a tower?
We asked Charlotte that question, and I think she mentioned an application that then didn't go anywhere.
Right. I remember
It might have
seeing-
been up towards exit 4.
Yes.
I think there's actually been 2 other instances where landowners have been approached about putting cell towers in. And I know specifically the first one that I know about, one of the neighbors immediately contested, even before an application or anything went in. It was just discussion with the landowner. And the second one, I don't know what happened, but there was a second one that I know that got asked about a tower on the property. So there has been some interest in
Some
the tower
interest,
going in
yeah.
Dummerston.
But in any event, we don't have one yet.
Right, yeah.
And I guess there are a couple of repeater type boxes on poles in Route 30, but this side of town gets most of its service from across the river, I guess. and this new tower probably will have quite an impact.
That was a strange thing I remember back then is the tower that was gonna go in Dummerston that the people complained about, that the difference was it just wasn't quite so close, it just went across the river. You know, it still went in,
Yeah.
And everyone can see it better.
yeah, because it's on a pretty high mountain over there, yeah.
How tall are these towers they're putting in these days?
They're all
One in
different.
Brattleboro was 120 feet, I think.
So I think one of the,
But you could actually put one in the church steeple, I mean, they're totally different than,
there's a whole variety of.
and many of them, they're hard to see. If you go up 91, there's a lot of new ones and you don't even see them anymore because they're disguised like a tree.
Right.
Look at the one right by the bridge. I mean, we all noticed that when it went in, you don't even see it anymore. Right by the bridge
get used
construction
to
on
it.
91, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even see it now.
Yeah.
What do we say, it does, the regulations wouldn't even kick in until it was over, is it 50 feet? Yeah, 50 feet. So some kind of antenna under 50 feet this wouldn't apply. So that would hopefully alleviate concerns of people doing, radio stuff or, things on their roof or things like that.
The draft says that proposes it being conditional use in all districts.
And that's something that,
And that's something which should be discussed.
because the ordinance has said not in conservation, but it actually came up during our zoning update discussions with public input. Some people said,
Yeah.
that's probably the district where, they should go.
But both of these that I'm talking about would have been in conservation.
That's where the high.
That's the high ground generally, yeah,
Yeah,
right, the more
yeah.
remote.
So, something to think about. We ended up, for this draft, suggesting all districts. I think an earlier version said not settlement area, but, I was
Yeah.
thinking, what about the church steeple?
Yeah.
Of course, that's under 50 feet, so it wouldn't matter anyway, but, so in the end, we just said, well, let's just have it apply to all districts and start at that.
So for the process, do you need to have a public hearing and bring this?
Oh, yeah, if this was to be an amendment to the bylaw, it would follow the standard.
Okay, so
We
we
would
have a
match
public
it
hearing
probably with some other things.
and
Yeah.
then it'd be forwarded to the.
come to you.
Yeah,
Right,
okay.
right. Yeah, and we're not, thank you, you just adopted the new updated zoning bylaw, so we're not interested in having a hearing like that for a while. Which is why this is an
There's an
urgent.
urgent need, but we want to batch a bunch of things together so we
Yeah.
can have a public hearing and do a revision
Mhm.
in an efficient way.
Right.
Okay.
So there may be a few amendments in a year from now or so that we try to,
Okay,
If
But-
we decide to keep it as an ordinance, then it's all yours.
right, okay.
of course, if you tell us that it's important that we, get this into the bylaw pronto, then, that we would do that.
Sometimes you have like informational type meetings, you haven't had an informational. type
Not on this,
meeting
and
at
that
all.
would certainly be something that we could do, particularly if the select board
I'd be
found it
curious
appropriate.
I'd be curious to know what the community itself,
Mhm.
before we even got to a public hearing, if there was sentiment one way or another about.
Yeah, I tried to provoke a little interest in the Views article about that, about the question of, what do you think about something going on a ridgeline versus being able to make a call? I haven't heard anything yet. But,
Certainly, I mean, on the surface, it makes more sense to have it in zoning and not as an ordinance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a discussion we'd have to have, but
Yeah.
it certainly is, I think Andrew's thought is, I would agree, Sam, we should discuss that, but.
Mhm.
If you were looking to put in a cell phone tower, would you view this as anything of an impediment to the process?
well, when I read it through the VLCT language, I thought, wow, that's a lot of hoops to jump through, but I don't know that the the public service board process is any easier. And we decided in our planning commission discussion, that all the technicalities in the VLCT draft, we're really not up to deciding whether they're appropriate or not. So we have kept most of it as recommended. So, I don't know. I'm sure there are probably some, places where it's easier to put in a cell tower than Vermont. But whether this is, this is the VLCT recommended language. It's quite similar to the 2001 language in the technical parts and the requirements. It's actually probably somewhat
It's easier.
easier, wouldn't you say? Yeah.
And looking over today, I thought that we ought to maybe redo our draft and consider more and include more language which was in the ordinance about defining visual impact,
Yeah, that's
which I took out, and I don't know why I took it out when I did the draft, but it would be helpful to the DRB if they needed to make that decision.
Mhm.
Well, I will tell you that we just got phones, smartphones, for the first time last month, this month, in significant part because we have no service at our house.
right.
Sam, do you have service?
No, I don't. Not over there.
I mean, it's amazing.
The village does.
All of West, the village does,
The village does.
Okay.
At least with.
but the covered
some
bridge
kind.
doesn't, right?
I do in my house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a stretch of the West River Valley that does, but not at the north end and
Right,
parts of the south end
But
don't.
it's very spotty.
right.
That must depend on your carrier then, because I have service right up till I turn above Maple Valley. So it's gotta really depend on your,
Straight through.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, one thing I really like in here is that, when these things are no longer used, they're supposed to be removed.
Yep.
I think that's important, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can ask for a bond.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, that's true. That's.
Yeah,
It also gives the town the ability to, the applicant has to cover the expense of the town to hire an expert
Yeah.
to help them, understand the issues, because.
None of these things are obligatory, but they're just tools available to the DRB in the case that they want to use them.
Mhm. So is it the sense, or do you need to discuss it more, that this would be part of the bylaw?
We need a motion, I mean, I didn't make a motion that, although, I haven't read the whole ordinance yet, so probably, I guess probably I wouldn't.
well, I mean, that's my sense too.
Yeah, my sense is that
Yeah.
it should be part of the
Yeah,
bylaw,
so
so.
I'd say that they go back with the sense that the select board, this one at least, agrees with them that it makes more sense as a bylaw, and that you take it and run with it,
Okay.
We can do that.
okay?
So you obviously have taken some time to, I mean, honestly, I haven't had time to read the ordinance yet, but you've probably read the ordinance and
I read
tried
the
to
ordinance
tweak
and-
things.
We read the BCLT
Yeah,
suggestions, which are from 2001. That's the last time
they
they
updated.
updated it.
Yeah, okay.
So
Or maybe 2006, I don't remember. It's at least 10 years.
yeah. So it's not that different from
Yeah.
what we've got. But
Were you on the select board, Andrew, when this went through, or is this?
Well, surprisingly enough, I remembered I was on the select board when the amendment went through,
Okay,
but I wasn't on there when the original,
ordinance.
Right, right,
2001
if you go to the
went
back
through.
page of this, it's got
Oh, okay, yeah, oh, thank you, yeah.
Shorty Ferret and
Paul Norman, Middle Lester,
Yeah.
Buckley,
Jack
John Johnson.
Johnson,
Jack Yannick.
yeah. Lester Dunkley.
Select board of old.
So, and of course you could, by the time you get done with this and ready to go, you could have another select board that
Yeah.
wants to have it as an ordinance. But
And they can easily take, well, not easily, but they can certainly grab it back.
mhm.
I don't really, it's hard to see any any advantage to having this an ordinance.
Ordinances are hard to enforce. And
Well,
they just-
you guys would have the ultimate control over it anyway.
Yeah,
No matter what the decision is, the select board still has the authority to enforce it.
I just think ordinances are innately hard to enforce anyway.
With no constable,
Right.
or no law enforcement agency. I think that the VLCT had a draft ordinance and a draft bylaw. They were virtually identical. And I think the ordinance was designed for towns with no zoning,
Mm-hmm.
or towns that had a law enforcement presence that was permanent and enforced ordinances.
Well, I guess what we would, how we would proceed, you know, we wanna get some feedback from the DRB. And maybe we could, at some point, it's so technical to sort of ask people in the public to read it and give us feedback is almost hopeless. But it would be wise to get some kind of sense of what people in town think before just having a public hearing. And so I always like to have a public forum. And maybe that would just be part of when we have other amendments as well.
I think that's, yeah, people are meeting out, I think. So,
Yeah.
I think if you can accumulate 3 or 4 things, that's probably a good idea, yeah.
And, you know, we'll keep writing about it in the views.
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate to get it on the website?
This copy?
Yeah.
It is on the website as part of our minutes of the last
Okay,
meeting, so, you know, of course, you always have to kind of be looking for it,
I
but
gotta go dig for those again.
we could certainly try to make it more prominent, but I think maybe wait and see if there's people asking, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Andrew, you've kind of spearheaded this, haven't you? So I want to thank
Yeah.
you for
Sure.
working on this, because I'm sure it wasn't.
Well, I thought
reading.
I thought it would be a simple little, couple-hour job,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of complexity to this issue.
Thank you for taking it on.
Mhm.
I'm sure Sam thanks you.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's one of those things that gets sort of, kind of interesting as you dig into it.
Right. All right.
Okay.
Thank you
I'll
both.
give your
Thank you for coming.
Budget negotiations. I'll put in a plug for the planning commission budget
Absolutely.
and our additional or ongoing request for clerical help.
Here, here. There's 3 votes. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, good night.
Any other thoughts on that?
No?
No,
Okay,
Well
I guess
done.
we just wait until
yeah,
it comes back.
I hope the community gets involved if there's
Yeah,
people that want to make some input.
yeah.
That would be nice to get some service on the west side of town.
It's so critical now, because once you have that smartphone, I mean, you need somebody's phone number, you look it up, you need
Oh, I know.
the weather,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just everything,
Yep.
everything's there.
Right. So, well, going back to correspondence for discussion and or action. We have an email from Matt Mann at the Windham Regional Commission. And he's, in that letter, tells us that the transit feasibility study for Route 30 is about complete, and they're finalizing their recommendations and studies. His letter talks about some money being involved here. 80% of the money would be coming from the federal government, and my impression is this is for a bus service or something along those lines. And they would be looking for a 20% local match. And he says to get in touch with him if we have questions about the contribution. So I think it would behoove us to get in touch with him and find out what he has in mind here. And
Would you have time to do that, or you got enough?
sure, I've got a smartphone, I can be out in
Out in the orchard
out
and
in
getting
the
this
orchard
work
and
done,
give him a
yeah.
call, sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I've got
I would
cell
like
service there.
that to be done and see, Joe, is
Yeah.
that all right if we
Sure,
let Zeke look into
absolutely.
it?
Sure, okay, so I'll give him a call tomorrow on that, and we'll get some information. Okay, then, moving on. On the, let's see, at our last regular meeting, we approved $159 and some change for some eyeglasses to be paid for from the Miller Fund. This was a request from the school nurse, and apparently she made a mistake and it was supposed to be $259. So she's asking for that extra, or the $100 that would actually pay for these couple of sets of eyeglasses.
I would move that we appropriate the additional $100 from the Miller Fund for those eyeglasses.
Yep, second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Would you let her know?
I sure will.
Okay, great. So, moving on, we have the budget. And I wonder if you want to put that just aside for a few minutes while we go down to new business?
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
All right.
It's riveting information and we should save it for the end of the meeting. probably.
Yeah, yes. Try to boost our ratings.
Yeah.
This other. Always guaranteed to increase our viewer ratings and press in the local headlines is appointment of a Green Up Day coordinator, and this year we're looking to do co-coordinators.
Can I appoint or recommend that we appoint two coordinators, Mark Brown and Whitney for
Yes, Whitney Harrison.
Harrison,
Yeah.
since they've shown an interest, I believe, in continuing.
Whitney
or doing-
definitely has. Mark,
Will be a surprise.
I've called him and emailed him, so he knows that it's on the docket.
If he didn't want to be there, he should have spoke up quickly, yeah, okay.
Okay.
So that's my motion.
I'll
All right.
second that.
Okay, any more discussion on that? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. Would you notify the,
I will.
okay. So, I guess when some of the, let's see, which folder is this now? It's one of these folders. There's in there, there's the money that comes from, that we use for our emergency management program. Because the state has told us that we need to send in a form, sign a form to.
Right, which we have to do every year.
Yes, and apparently we thought we had sent that in, but maybe it got lost in the, between here and Montpelier. So, we could do it again. And
Yeah, I was, the total was 32,000?
$32,000.
For the whole year, and
Yeah.
we have to sign it in order to be reimbursed for the expenses that we've already expended.
Laid out.
So I
Right.
would move that we fill out and sign the agreement. I guess you would call it an RERP agreement, I don't
It
know.
is, it's a
Okay.
grant, RERP grant
Yeah.
agreement.
For, it was even 32,000, wasn't it?
Yep.
And I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye? All right, okay, so I'll sign that then before I go home.
That's
Um,
something different, that's the Act 250. Isn't it?
Yeah, we need to look at that too, yeah.
Ah, I was ahead of the game.
Yeah, you're way ahead,
All right.
yeah.
Okay, so we have
Hand me the new business folder, please.
the there's a certificate of change in the 2015 grand list. Someone leaving the current use program.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's okay.
Just trying to get you the right paperwork. that's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, we're just trying to, yeah.
There,
Oh,
that's what
okay.
you're talking about right now.
Okay. So, and so a motion to.
I would, yeah, this is on the change of the grand
Grand
list.
list, yes.
So there was somebody that dropped out of the current use program, so I would move that we make the appropriate change to our grand list from this particular property from $371,000 to $494,100.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's sign that. Then we have the Municipal Impact Questionnaire for Renaud gravel pit. Their Act 250 application, and it's been filled out. It just says what services the town provides or doesn't provide as far as waste disposal, police and fire. And so we just need to certify that this information is correct and we send it in.
In the interest of keeping this meeting moving along, I'll move that we sign the questionnaire, the Municipal Impact Questionnaire for Renaud gravel pit, Act 250 application.
And I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I'll sign that. Okay, so that's it for our new business, unless there's any other new business. We do have some new business. It's not on our agenda,
Right.
but we did get the letter from Entergy wanting us to make a decision by early in December as to what we would like to do with the 2 sirens that are in town. And they've laid out some different options. They will take them down if that's what we'd like. We can keep them and then us take on the responsibility for the maintenance, repair, and any other costs that go along with them. So we can't make a decision tonight because it just came in and didn't make it onto the agenda. But we could get some more information.
I would like to suggest that Zeke, you contact them and get a little more information, if you don't mind, particularly about what the involvement would be with the mutual aid and
Okay.
costs that we might not be aware of or things we might not understand in that
Yeah.
estimate of. And also, maybe you could meet with the fire department or ask the fire department if they foresee any reason to keep them or not keep them.
Mm-hmm.
Would that make sense? Would that be all right, Joe, if we had Zeke
Absolutely,
looking at that?
and I'm wondering if the emergency management coordinator should weigh in also.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, why not check in with her also?
yeah. And that way, next meeting, or whenever we'd be,
I think we might have to deal with this at our next next
I
regular
think
meeting.
December 15th is the deadline.
yeah.
So we may even want her to come to that meeting, but I'll check. with
Yeah,
her
right,
and see
or
what-
you may get what she needs to tell you, yeah.
Mhm.
If you wouldn't mind, I think that would be great.
Okay, right. I can do that, could you? If you had time, just rake the leaves in my front yard.
I got a blower that'll blow them right onto your neighbor's property for
Yeah,
you.
that'll work, that's fine with me. Okay.
Oh, that's
so
right, I'm his neighbor.
Anybody else have any other new business?
No, just if you could clarify the starting time for next week's budget session?
Okay, our
On
work
Wednesday?
session, budget work session, that is going to be on, is that December 2nd?
Yes.
I was under the impression that it was gonna start at 5. What What was your?
That was my impression.
I thought usually the budget sessions were gonna
Yeah,
start at 5,
yeah.
but we may have made,
Perfect.
Okay,
Okay, good.
all right, so next Wednesday, December 2nd, here at 5. Good, that sounds good.
And the only other thing was, the discussion of the capital plan fund investment, which Joe had asked me to get the information. When I looked that up online, the only online banking for Allied Bank that I could find was not based in the United States. The two that I found were, their home offices were in the Philippines and Pakistan.
I actually looked it up after the meeting, and I was dealing with, I don't even remember where it was, but it was definitely in this country.
Uh-huh.
And I confirmed that the rate was 1%, and it's a savings account, so you can't write checks on it. But what I did was to just call them, and they would send me a check. I will look at it again, and I can get back to you. Probably what I'll do is I'll just shoot you an email.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I didn't spend a whole lot more time on it
Yeah.
after that's what I
Yeah.
found. And with Zeke's blessing, so yeah,
Yeah.
if you can get that, that'd be awesome.
sure.
Thanks. That's all I had.
Okay, so want to go back, want to spend a little time on the budget?
yeah, 20 minutes or so would be good.
15 maybe?
Yeah, better, better.
Okay, let's see. I've got a few questions. Going down, under select board insurance, the 35,259 for 5 people.
Mhm.
For our last year's budget, the fiscal year 16 budget was 32,688. Was that for 4 people?
That was for 4 people.
Okay, 4 people. Okay,
Yes.
all right. And then 35,259 is for 5 people,
Right.
and plus we do not have the
The-
payment in lieu of health insurance. although-
Right.
Why is there? Okay, yeah. Did you get any information on the unemployment
Mhm.
insurance, why that went up so much?
They, I don't have a final answer. The 561 includes the $250 maintenance fee that they charge annually, which, when I looked at it last year, we did not include that in there, and I don't know where it was accounted
Huh, probably in
for.
the sand budget or something.
I mean, gravel.
Chloride, yeah.
Yeah, the chloride budget. So that is why that went up so much. And
Okay.
all of these numbers, we received yesterday and today.
Okay,
The workers' comp,
wow.
public official liability, and property owners policy.
Okay,
And for next week's, why don't I scan and email you the explanation that came along with that from VLCT, and then you can all have that.
okay, because
Okay.
otherwise I'd be asking questions why this went up so much. or
Right.
that. Okay, so we can wait for that.
I'll do that tomorrow.
I don't remember the Windham Solid Waste Management District, why that was going down.
That's in the packet.
Yeah,
In the
Oh.
purple packet. It's
they.
down 11%.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, are going down, well,
Some of it was staff changes, if I
Yeah.
remember right,
Yeah.
from talking with,
anticipating more revenue coming in, and then just possibly they were going to draw on their reserve, or it seemed like they were some deficit spending.
yeah, I think when Michelle was here, she talked about drawing on reserve and
Yeah.
deficit spending, yeah, right, yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you.
okay. Do you have anything, any questions there?
No, I just had notes to myself. And
Okay. Going down, under administration, wages, town clerk, tax collector, you know, it's blank because we haven't filled in the amount, but, you have, the note is 30 hours for 52 weeks.
Mhm.
Is that, should that be 50 weeks? If you would expect them to?
It depends on, for instance, if I were town clerk, I'm entitled to 2 weeks paid vacation. So that's why,
That's, oh, okay. Wow,
yeah,
it's a nice,
because it's,
nice town.
well,
clerk.
actually, it's for anyone because it's 30, whoever
Yeah.
that person is, because it's 30 weeks.
Okay, and so.
I mean, 30 hours,
When we
sorry.
get down to wages, treasurer, it's
Mhm.
50 weeks because they,
It's less than 30 hours a week.
less than 30 hours. Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
Okay, so it's not clear, so what you're thinking is they're gonna take 2 weeks vacation, but
Right.
not be paid, okay, I'm just trying to catch
Right.
up with Zeke, okay,
Right.
yeah, okay,
For the treasurer.
yeah,
For the
okay,
treasurer,
Yeah.
yeah,
right.
okay,
Like we
thank
did
you,
with Charlotte's last year for
Yeah.
Okay,
zoning administrator.
thank you.
Mhm.
good.
The printing of the town report went down, they did get a quote from CNS,
Mm-hmm,
so I put in a lower amount.
mm-hmm. Okay,
And the listers has an amount in there, but again, it's just the same as it was last year because you haven't reviewed
so.
wages yet.
Yeah, mm-hmm, okay.
I just don't want them to think that they're level funded.
Right, yeah,
Right,
And Pam will have figures for you for the delinquent tax collector part by
Okay.
the budget meeting.
okay, and but she's thinking it's about 8 hours a month?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fine. 12 hours. Okay.
Right now, Charlotte's, the zoning administrator position is budgeted at 15 hours a week,
Mm-hmm,
but she feels it really could be done in 12 hours a week.
okay. All right,
I think everything else is the same on that page.
yeah. And we're waiting for Pam to come up with copier, computer, new equipment.
Yes.
Okay,
I updated the sheriff's department contract.
yeah,
And I put in his new information is $49 an hour,
mm-hmm,
and I just calculated it at the 18.5 hours a month.
yep.
I figured that will change sometime.
oh, I hope so.
And rescue's assessment is just over 4% increase.
Yeah,
Okay, and everything else there is the same, Windham Humane, yep. Okay,
and the fire department, their VLCT insurance, I added that amount in, but that is a pass-through because the fire department reimburses us for that.
okay. All right. Emergency management, we,
So, can I just, so we
Yeah.
put 57,000 in, when we do our total, does that 8,400 get added into our total, or does that get taken out?
It's added in, but then it's also included on the revenue side.
Okay, alright, okay,
Yeah.
thank you, yeah.
so anything that's a pass-through is
Is on
also
the
listed
revenue,
on
okay,
Right.
revenue.
yeah.
Okay. All right, we're waiting to hear from the Social Services Advisory Committee. When are they meeting? They're meeting soon?
They've met a few times. I don't know when their next meeting is. I
All
haven't
right,
been told.
Are they meeting with us at some point?
we could ask them to.
I think we should.
They usually come and meet with you after they've
Right.
after they have their recommendations.
Okay. So
And
you
it would
could,
depend on what their recommendation is, I mean, if it came in the same as last year or less, or whatever we may pretty comfortable anyway, but
Mhm.
they are working, cause somebody they've contacted called me, I don't remember who, but where somebody wanted to know how to contact them, so I know that they have been working. Oh, and you
Yeah.
said they've had some meetings,
Yeah,
yeah.
they've met twice in the past 2 weeks here.
Okay, so the rest of this is pretty much how we left it last time. County taxes,
I added in the Southeastern Vermont watershed
Yeah.
ordinance.
and we took out Northern Vermont, RC and DC.
I just left it 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the highway fund expenditures are, you used the wages from last year.
Mhm.
Okay,
And I did add in the vehicle and equipment insurance,
okay, the new figures for that,
right?
okay.
Laurie, why is there a bank service charge?
Because merchants charges us $20 a month, but the interest that they pay us well
Okay.
exceeds that.
I see, okay.
Okay,
Let's see, we usually get when we start talking about budgeting the wages, we usually get a printout from you.
Yep.
Could we get that sooner?
I was gonna have it for you next Wednesday.
Okay, perfect.
Is that
Yep.
soon?
okay, and let's see, what you usually do is.
That's what I need you to tell me is
Yeah.
what figures, what percentages you want me to calculate.
We usually, what do we usually do?
What's the cost of living we usually want the cost of living.
Yeah,
Joe, you know what that is this year?
Well, Social Security did not have an increase, and I guess there's talk about maybe amending their index. Offhand, Steve, I don't remember,
Okay.
I don't know what the CPI is.
Yeah.
I can certainly look that up for our next meeting.
Well, it would make a difference probably on what we asked Lori to give us for,
yeah,
For
usually we're in the
theoretical.
range, we start 2.5, we do 3, we do 3.5 or 3.25 or something like that. We could do whatever we did last year, how about that? Do you remember?
I think they were lower than this last year.
2.5, I think was the high one we did
I
last year.
think so too, yeah.
Ah, I thought, but we ended up doing 3%, right?
No, last year, it was 2.5 last year. The year before that, I believe it was 3,
Can't remember.
yeah.
So if we had 2 and 2.5
Yeah.
and 3 or something like
Yeah,
that,
let's do that,
Okay.
to get the discussion
just to get,
going.
yeah, right,
Yeah,
talking.
to get some figures. Great.
Yeah, and I'll be here at the budget session, but once you really get into the nitty gritty of wages,
Yeah,
I'd rather leave.
sure. Yeah. I have these sound canceling headphones
Oh, there you go.
that I could bring.
Perfect.
I don't know if you want to discuss the capital budget plan at all, or anything else in the municipal budget you want to go over?
Well, we talked about making some changes. I guess the one truck is going to need to be, or, the trade-in is not as much as we had hoped. Has that change been made?
I think this
Mhm.
has gone
Yeah.
from 130.
Went
to 150.
250, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and so it puts us in a little bind the following year.
Mhm.
Yeah, last year we increased the capital fund a little, but we're trending the wrong way when we get out here in the 2022 and 3 and
Right. So last year, we had been going up a couple of $1,000 each year, as I recall.
And that's what we did.
Yeah,
That's what
and then
this is.
last year, yeah, we went 3,000
Well, we're looking at a deficit just in a couple of years, right?
Because you have a huge expenditure that year.
Right.
And the whole thing is, I mean, it says that we're going to expend $180,000 for the fire truck, but that's really not the case if they do it the way they've done the past 2 trucks where they leased it, and that $180,000 is spread out over 4 or 5 years, which is how we tried to account for it a few years ago in
Yes,
the town
we were-
report, and
we were-
we're raked over the coals for doing it that way.
We were taken to task.
There you go.
Yeah.
Could we, the fire department has a lot going right now with their fundraising for a new building and everything. Should we talk to them and see if they're still considering the new truck, or maybe with the new building they might?
I thought they were building the new building for the new truck.
No, I think they just need a new building,
Yeah, yeah.
but, just might be worth asking if they've thought of.
Do you,
It seems like I've heard some discussion about that, and
yeah, would you?
yeah, I'd be happy to,
do
yeah,
that?
just to see if
Just to,
and it may well be they still are, but I do
Yeah.
remember some discussion about that with trying to raise the funds for the new building too.
right.
Alright, I will
So
look
is
into
this- So in the past, we've taken that figure for the new truck, and it's been, I remember, it's been a payment of so much per.
Right, like $45,000 a
Yeah,
year, say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it would make a big difference if that's what we're going to do,
Mm-hmm.
rather than having to come up with 180, along with 250,000 for a new grader.
Right.
So should I be asking them that same thing, or is it
Yeah,
really
is
up to
that-
us how we do it?
It's,
The town is buying it, right, and then we lease it back.
the town, basically, yes, that's correct, but the fire department historically has made that decision
Okay,
on how it's done.
What they, okay, so I'll
Okay,
ask about that
yeah.
too, okay.
How does it work? Do they charge interest?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the rate is?
I have no idea, it's been 5 years since we've done it, so.
Probably more than 1.15%.
I would think so.
Yeah, I would guess.
Mhm.
So we'll get some more information on that,
Mm-hmm.
so we could figure, rather than, say right now we have to increase our request for the capital budget plan by
A lot.
40,000 more or something. Okay, so. But it seems like we may want to think about increasing the amount that we're putting into the capital
I would think so.
fund, yeah.
Yeah, we had that same discussion last year, and we just
Yeah.
put a little in, but I think we gotta get more serious.
I thought we got serious a year before, something like that. We increased it,
By quite a bit, I think.
yeah,
Where does it show how much we put in?
yeah.
Taxes raised.
Taxes raised,
Okay.
that's what
Yeah, see, we
we,
only
yeah.
raised it by 3,000, yeah.
yeah.
Actually, in 2014-15, taxes raised were 125,000, so you went up 8,000 to 133,000.
That was in 14, 15, you're saying?
From 14-15
Yeah.
to 15-16,
Yeah.
to the current year that we're in now.
Yeah. But some of that was anticipating the new truck and the,
I think so.
right. And then once we did that, we decided to add, I think, another 3,000.
Every year.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm. should we get some information on the fire truck and how we'll pay for it?
Yeah, I got that on, is that
Great, great,
what I'm asking, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Or ask-
if they're gonna buy
If they're
it,
gonna get a truck, then the next obvious question is, how are they thinking of?
financing.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll do both those if you want.
That's great, as far as I'm.
Yep,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Next budget session, we'll have some wages, we'll talk about wages. We'll get some background on the VLCT, insurance premiums. You were going to.
The unemployment part,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
no, I'm gonna email you all the information tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, so we'll
Let's see.
have that.
Geraldine is back on the second, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think she's gonna wanna talk about the comp time for that night.
but that's a budget meeting, the second,
Oh, the ninth, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, the
Okay.
ninth.
so the night she'll, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's see, who's coming? Dawn Hubbard, is she coming? Oh, did we ask her to come next week, or did we ask her to come at all so far?
I have not asked her.
Ah, okay.
Would you like me to?
Yeah, do you wanna talk about emergency management?
Yeah, I mean, we all, we talked about how we're gonna, if we're gonna have a stipend, or how we're gonna pay, and I think that was one of the things we talked about earlier.
I was supposed to invite her to the budget meeting next week.
Ah, well, you
So
still
I
have.
still
Oh, the
will
next
do that.
meeting, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you were ready to anyway, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I
First
just read my
thing to-
notes.
Okay,
Sure.
and that's, we did wanna talk about a stipend, or how many hours, remember we talked about asking her how many hours, so that might be something Lori would have her, ask her to have prepared, how many hours she thinks she invests in a month,
Yeah.
or a year, or a week, however. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
Makes sense to me.
okay. All right.
What else were there was something else that we were gonna have her input on.
Simons.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Silence, Lori, yeah.
And actually, while you were raking my lawn, that was a question that I was going to be asking her. So,
You're talking to the wrong department about that. Well, if there's nothing else,
Yeah, I move we adjourn.
I would second Joe's motion.
okay, well, hold,
Yep.
Just because it's come up a couple of times in discussion, we, Pam McFadden is not going to be running for re-election, so the town clerk office for town clerk is going to be open. And of course, we have library trustees. We had, actually Janet Avery has, for personal reasons, had to resign as a trustee for the Lydia Taft Pratt Library after, she's worked very hard and very well on that as a trustee for a number of years. So, sorry that she's resigned, but, so there, another trustee is not going to be looking to run again. So there'll be 2 openings on the library trustees. There are 2 openings on the select board. The animal control office is always open as far as I'm concerned. And my understanding is that the town treasurer office will be.
It will be, because I'm going to take out a petition to run for town clerk.
Okay. So that's a little news that.
Yep. Change is always good.
Yep.
But it just really it points out the need for people to, step up to the plate and, run for run for these offices, because it's really important.
Yeah.
You know, it's a small town.
Do you think you should write a letter to the Views?
When will the views be coming out again? It's
The
just
next one doesn't come out until just before town meeting.
Yeah, yeah, which is too
Too
late
late
to
to get
take
your
petitions out.
petitions in, yeah.
But if we get the word out via the electronic,
We can ask the Commons to do an article.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and have it on our website that we have
Sure.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
so we can try to get the word out.
And can we, could you write Janet a nice
Yes.
thank you letter from the board? 'Cause
I'll do that.
she's worked diligently at that, I think.
Mm.
Yep.
She sure has.
And
Sure. And I was going to write Doug Hamilton too.
Yep.
Okay, so now I think we could go vote on that.
Motion on the table?
Yeah? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Good meeting, Z. Got me in pretty efficient tonight.